Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shabber podcast. Uh, we're going to be talking about some anime today. We're going to first off start off with Takopi's Original Sin, episode 2. So, once again, Takopi's Original Sin gives you a fair warning that there's going to be like violence and acts towards children and all these other triggering things for the anime as per usual, but as you'll see on the what I'll have up will be some semi uh bad images or some very happy images. And it starts off with Shizuka, and she's about to answer this question, and Marina just kind of like is in her own little space, and Shizuka's looking over at her, trembling like, oh, she's not gonna like if I answer correctly. So you can still see that there's a lot of fear in Shizuka, and she still very much is afraid of Marina and what she's capable of, and even Takopi knows what she's capable of. So it's really even worse because doesn't even acknowledge her when she looks at her. She just kind of like nods and looks away. So you instantly can feel that Marina is probably plotting something even more devious than before. So Shizuka and Takopi are kind of heading home, and Shizuka kind of is telling Takopi about all the stuff with her dad and how she used to love going to walks with her dad and stuff. But at one point, they stopped going towards walks, and her dad and her mom started having issues, and they pretty much got to a point where they needed to divorce, and Shizuka tried to ask or pray slash wish that her parents would stay together and not get this divorce. But because her wishes didn't end up coming true, she stopped believing that things such as God or magic existed in the world, which we know in previous episode, in the previous episode, episode one, she was telling Takopi that she doesn't believe in magic or any of that sort, and this is the reason why, because she has had such a bad past that now it's affecting how she views the world now, how she views the world in a darker tone, and Takopi obviously being kind of like the opposite, where he's trying to look at everything in the positive side and tries to get Shizuka to understand that there's still magic in the world, and he wants to show her that so that she can be happy. But yeah, then they kind of like meet Marina somewhere as they're walking, and he Takopi remembers at one point how the day that they're currently on is the day that Shizuka ended up taking her own life, and the reason why she ended up taking it was because she showed up with Chappie's collar, but not with Chappie. So once he saw that Chappie uh, bit uh, Marina, and that made it so that Chappie had to be taken away or get put down, Takopi kind of put one and two together. So now he understood that in order for Shizuka to remain happy and not have to worry about her doing something terrible to end her own life, he had to make sure that Chappie and Shizuka stayed together. So he kind of started using his little gadget to go back in time to redo everything over again. But except this time, no matter how far he went, no matter which route he took, or no matter how hard he tried to make sure they never met Marina that day, the it was kind of inevitable that they would meet her because she was actively looking for them. So no matter what Takopi did, they were gonna meet Marina, and Chappie was gonna be taken away. And in doing so, now we get told that basically the dog's gonna go back to their Shizuka's father because it belonged to him originally, and the mother kind of we see the mother for the first time, and she's pretty much in almost in the same realm as Marina's mother, except not as manipulative, but she's still very absent as a mother to Shizuku, and she kind of lets her know like what you're doing, all this problems you're causing for Marina. The one that's gonna have to deal with the father, and it's gonna make me look bad when I have to try to save face in front of him and try to get him to understand that you didn't mean any harm. So instead of the mother kind of like checking to make sure Shizuku was okay from the dog being taken away, or just in general, just even seeing her appearance, just kind of trying to gauge how she's feeling, or see if anything's going on, why Marina and her are kind of fighting with one another. She decides to just kind of like toss that to the side, focus on her own relationship with Marina's father, and try to make amends in that, and basically leaving Shizuka to pretty much take care of herself, like even telling her like you'll have to make yourself dinner tonight. Well, she has to go and escort Marina's dad. So it is very telling that the, both Marina and Shizuku kind of have had their parents abandon them in a way. The mother being very manipulative towards her, kind of abandoning her mother position to try to make it so that Marina hates her father, and because of all the verbal abuse or even physical abuse, as we see, Marina ends up having like this bruised up cheek at one point. She ends up taking all that frustration that she's feeling in her own home and takes it out on Shizuku. And Shizuku is in the same position where she doesn't have a motherly figure either, or a fatherly figure, because the father left and the mother's nowhere to be seen, just always with Marina's father. But in her case, she ends up just kind of feeling defeated, uh, giving in to depression, trying to basically giving up on life. Because no matter what she did, everybody was putting her down. Whether it was her mother, then it's Marina, and it seemed like aside from Takopi and Chappie, nobody really cared for her. And we have now they go back to school, and school is just another brutal reminder that people did not care about Shizuku, and they were even berating her like, "Oh, you let your wild animal attack Marina, and now she suffered serious injury. How could you do that?" You know, like kind of instead of like realizing that Marina's been bullying her, Marina spins it around to the point where everybody thinks um, dog is the one. Shizuku's dog is the one that bit her with basically for no good reason, and now Shizuku's being bullied by the rest of the class, and even more so being more bullied by Marina. But Shizuka is at a point in her life now that Chappie's gone, to where she she the remarks that Marina has said don't even like face her anymore. Like you can just see she's fully rock bottom in the dumps, not necessarily barely even alive, barely even looking alive at this point. And we have later after school, they try to bully her, or like after class they try to bully her some more, and one of the good friends with the glasses kind of steps in and gives Shizuka the breathing room she needed to kind of get away from them, but that still was not enough to like get a good reaction out of her. So it's really heartening to see how much life has been taken away from Shizuku ever since Happy left, or Chappie left. And then we have the after school meeting with Marina and Shizuka again, and once again, Takopi, bless his soul, is still like trying to see the silver lining, because now that Chappie's no longer there, uh, Shizuku's still there. Maybe he thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for you two to become really good friends, get to hash things out. There's nothing coming between you guys now. And Marina uh, remembers how her family dysfunction was, and how the father and mother were always fighting with one another. And now that the and this is was practically when Marina's father started seeing Shizuka's mother, and it ended up ending with the current situation that she has now, where she's now basically just with her mother, and her mother being manipulative towards her. And you can really see the anger she holds for Shizuku, who's practically because of her father living off Marina's father's money, and she takes it out on Shizuku once again because her life has gone to hell ever since her family started getting involved in hers. And Takopi was like so scared as he kept remembering back to the point where that to the point of last episode where Marina was stabbing him with a pencil and beating him. It You could really tell the fear was really ingrained in Takopi, and also you could really see Shizuku was just taking the beating, just pretty much giving herself away to, oh, whatever happens with what Marina is doing is I'll just let it be. I have no more further reason to live. And that's that's when Takopi ends up getting this sudden burst of courage and attacks Marina with the camera gadget that allowed him to go back in time. And then next thing you know, Marina's just laying there in the floor with blood all over, and the camera is like dripping in blood. And now Takopi realized, oh shoot, I just ended up killing Marina, which is gonna be very interesting as Happy is not, because he's from the happy Takopi's from the happy planet. He That planet doesn't know what killing is. That planet never dealt with what it means to take a life. So he's very naive into what he has just done. Maybe he doesn't realize how big of a deal this is, and it's gonna be really interesting to see how Takopi takes things, because as he did the deed, Shizuku starts coming to life. So in a way, Takopi finally was able to do what he set out to do, which was make Shizuku happy, grant her one of her wishes. And Shizuku let him know, like, well, I had completely given up that wishes and gods existed, but you just took out Marina. I have been wishing that for a long time, and you just finally made it a reality. So thank you, Takopi. And it just goes to show how both of them are pretty naive as to the severity of the situation. Shizuka just thinks, oh, well, now I finally got rid of this weight that was on me, and I no longer have to worry about my bully beating me, stabbing me. I can just finally be free from this hell that she was putting me through. Whereas Takopi now has to come with the grips of, oh, I just took a life, has to deal with the repercussions of, oh, dealing with that, understanding his feelings to the act he just did, realizing and really come to grips with what it is he wants to do moving forward. Because now that he's taken a life, what's he gonna feel? Is he gonna feel happy? Is he gonna feel saddened? What's really gonna happen to somebody that's never experienced hardship, that's never had to get his hands dirty, that's always known only the purest of hearts? Is he no longer gonna be as pure-hearted as we've seen him in these past two episodes? Is he gonna become a little less reluctant to committing violence now? What is gonna happen? That is really interesting stuff to ask ourselves now that we see Takopi has ended a human life. But I love that after this ends up happening, he no longer is able to have a do over because the camera that he used to go back in time is covered in blood and no longer works. So now you can see that this is where Takopi's real story is now finally starting to take place. Because from here on out, he no longer gets to have his do-overs. He can no longer mess up anymore. Whatever ends up happening from here on out is here to stay. So there's no bringing Marina back. Only time will tell what's gonna happen later. Like who's gonna notice that Marina's gone? How are they gonna convince people that, or how are they gonna cover it up? I should say, in in the later in the next episode or so. So really, really great stuff from Takopi's original sin. This episode to me is a 8 out of 10.